Good with 5 minutes of table left before we change.
Okay, Ray and Connie, well, let's just start with when you came up here the first time. You were here first, right?
I was born in Bayfield, and so but my...
And who were your folks?
My Frederick Hanson, he was my father, and Peter Hanson was my grandfather, and I had another grandfather, Johnson, and my mother's mother passed away, but I knew Grandpa well, and I guess that's it. Well, but other than 6 kids and animals and dogs, we were on. Should I just say something?
Sure. Just keep going.
We were raised, of course, on Sand Island because my father was a fisherman, and it started out with his father, and when the fishing was a little bit harder in those days, according to my mother, she says that they'd go out in an open boat, and they didn't have an engine, but they had a sail, and they had 2 big oars. So if there was a good gale that could put them ashore, back to their docks, fine. Otherwise than that, they had to row. And my mother says she recalls hearing them back at Justice Bay, and when they were the big clanking of those oars. And it was hard, but it was hard when you talk about it now. But it wasn't hard in those days because that's how it was. And everyone accepted how it was, including the whole bunch
Everybody
of
knew
us.
it was hard work.
Yes, but no one thought anything about it. That was the way it was. So then my dad, when he married my mother, then he went into his own fish boat. And so, but he had his dad with him many, many years. And he kind of, in those days too, it was a custom for the son to stay with the father or to be there to help my grandfather, which my dad did. He watched him up to the end of time, and my grandmother also. But, and that was just nothing either. We didn't think anything about it. That's what you do. You're lucky to have a grandma and grandpa, and that's it. And so anyhow, things got to be a little easier. Oh, and by the time my mother had all the kids, 6 of us, then my dad got a boat.
Alma is one of your sisters.
Huh?
Alma is one of your...
Alma, yeah, she's the youngest girl. Then I had a brother, Jake, that was a year and a half younger than Al. Then I was the 3rd, and Gert was the 4th, and we were 15 months apart. So they sort of handled us as twins. And I was stronger than Gert, so I was always helping my sister, grabbing her hand, something like that. So, but now that was another thing. I thought nothing about it. I'd always turn around and grab Gert's hand, and away we'd go. But we were good friends all of our life also, I can say that. And then I had an older brother and an older sister. The oldest one was Dorothy, my sister Dorothy. She was up at your place at one time. And but my brother, he passed away fairly about 32 or something, like 32 or something. And anyhow, but we had a good time on the island, and we didn't have roads going to school. So Gert and I, when we got old enough, it was when we were in the low grades, we took the job of being the firemen. And so when it was snowy, we would plow through and drag our feet for the little ones that were coming in behind us. And that was another thing. We didn't think anything of it. You do that. And we had to carry in the wood and the kindling, Gert and I. But we were the best firemen they ever had. See, we got heat.
Talk about the compensation you got for all your work.
Oh, for making the fire, nothing. But we got 5 cents a day for watching the blackboard and clapping away on the erasers. And we thought that was great. We were glad to do it. And finally we hit a quarter. And, and then when the teacher would go to town, then you could get lots of things for 5 cents at the dime store. So we'd give her our order of a ring and a necklace or whatever it was we wanted for, And we thought that was great. And we thought it was normal. So we really actually enjoyed it. It wasn't there was any...
Was 5 cents between the two of you or each?
No, we'd have to, it was 5 cents a day. She'd get one day and I'd get the 5 cents the next day. But those teachers weren't paid too much. So it all was equal in that sense.
Now, how many years did you go to?
That's an oldie.
Okay, you were about to ask her about.
I was going to ask you how many years you went to that school out at Sand Island.
Well, 8 years in school. So that was the end of the story there. Then we had to go into Bayfield and go to high school. For those that went, mainly the girls would go rather than the boys. It was strange. And my class consisted of 3 boys and myself. And really, they were so shy they weren't very friendly. See?
So who were those 2 boys?
Melvin Dahl and Herman Johnson. Those are my classmates. And
The graduating class at Sand Island.
yeah, right, that was one of them. And I was so afraid we wouldn't pass, because then we had a county teacher come out at the end of the season for 8th graders. And I thought, we won't make it. I'm sure we won't make it. We were so worried. And yet we spent all our time studying. It wasn't like today. I guess once a week we had a little drawing, and not a lot of that either, because the teacher had to buy the drawing material herself. And we spent all our time being in school from 9 till 4, an hour off for lunch. But
Did you walk from school back to your house?
always
at
back
lunch?
and forth. Yeah.
Even in the wintertime?
My dad, I can only recall about once or twice he brought over lunch. We were Eskimos, you might say. We just went through it. That's all. We just didn't. And the little ones, you just take their hands and help them along.
Well, when you came into Bayfield to go to high school, where did you stay?
Well, my first year, I worked at the hotel down, which was the Bracken Hotel at that time, for 1 year. And then my mother, we had an apartment. And then because there was Gert and I in town, then there's Alma and Jake came in, so we had an apartment.
Who was in Gert's class?
Helen Naring, Lillian Moe, gee, I can think of a lot of them now. I've got the one, just a picture of her, and I can't tell. Whatever.
And then, so who's older? You?
But that was in high school. Then we had friends. What do you mean?
Who's older? You or Gert?
Gert was like 15
Okay.
months older than I am, so she
And
was
then
ahead of me.
what big a gap until Jake?
That was 10 years. She had 6 kids in 10 years.
Oh wow! So you're all packed right in there.
That was a custom
Yeah.
also. So my mother said, what, 6, that's it?
Well, then after you graduated from Bayfield High.
Then
what'd
at
you do?
18 I went to Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
do-
Wasn't that kind of weird? Look for a job. And that was in the Depression. So there wasn't jobs.
You find one?
Well, yes, I had to find one because I had to eat and I had to have, pay rent. And when I applied at the telephone company, of course I didn't. The education I had was just a high school. They said, we've got college girls in here looking for jobs. So my father told me, he was very practical. He said, I think for you being alone away from home, you would be wise if you would take care of children. Get a job in a home where you'd have your eats and take care of children. And so I worked in a gang that made telephone, the big telephone books. And that was a horrid job. You had to go so fast, and if they were just like a machine. They had us all just by the neck, you might say, and you did it their speed, and those things just rolled through. Well, then, all of a sudden, the times got worse, so they were letting a lot of people go. And then I got a job working in a laundry, and I had a room and board with the lady, and then my sister Gert went home in January, so then I was alone, and I thought, gee, I don't know if I want to be here alone. And so anyhow, then I stayed, though Gert went home in January, and I stayed till the 4th of July. Then when I came back, it was harder yet to get a job. See, things were getting more severe. So then I did take care of children for a while.
What year would this have been?
Well, let me see. I was born in 1915, and so then I was 18 when I left. Well, it was about in the 30s, 31 or 2, something like that. Times are tough. But that's another thing. I don't know whether I was my father, and then everyone works for what they should have. I didn't think anything was tough. As long as you had a job, I thought it was great. And when that was my attitude all through the time. I never complained or thought it was a tough job.
Now, when did you meet this guy?
Well, that was a long. I met him. Then I was a waitress.
Don't put that on tape.
Yeah, I was a waitress, and then he asked if I'd go to a show or something like that, and I didn't want to go.
This was in Chicago.
In Chicago, yes, I didn't want to go with him, and so.
You fell in love at first sight?
Well, I think his first wife had passed away, and so I thought, oh, why do I want to muck? And he had a son. I thought, what do I want to fool around with something like that? Totally. And
That was 53 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
53 years ago. Give him all the chances in the world to take a powder.
Feelings by not going, and I thought if his wife had passed and he had a kid, I thought, well, I'll go once. And you know what I did? I went to the drugstore, and I'm standing in there. I wouldn't come out. See, isn't that dumb? But that was what I said. Oh, I didn't want to get involved with it. But anyhow, then I finally had to go out, and I said, I've got a headache.
Always a convenient excuse.
Yeah. I thought, well, then let's just go someplace where there's music and dance a little bit or something. But I didn't.
So you went along?
Yes. So, I did.
You talked. You were persistent. Right?
Yeah,
Oh.
after
I had a way.
it was a lot of fun. See, it was a lot of fun after that. So then we went together for a couple of years, I guess, before we got married.
And you got married down in Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's back up a little for you, Ray.
Okay.
Where did you come from originally?
I was born in
Your
Fargo,
folks?
North Dakota.
You were?
Yeah.
Well, I'm from North Dakota.
No kidding.
Yeah?
How you doing, neighbor? Yeah, Fargo, North Dakota.
And-
In April the 28th of 1904. Yeah.
And when did your folks come out there?
My father was from Canada and my mother was from North Dakota, and they settled, they homesteaded in just the turn of the century up in Saskatchewan, Canada. And while they were up there, it was all prairie in those days, Now, of course, this is what the story we get from my mother, And so they homesteaded on a section of land up in Saskatchewan. It was about 35 or 40 miles north and west of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Saskatoon. Anyway, he was only out there 2 years. He had a shack up, and he had a well dug, surface water only, and he was bringing up logs to build a barn for his team, see? And it was during the winter months when he was bringing the logs in. Well, during this time, he was working alone, and he had got a fairly good sized load of logs and was coming back to the homestead with him, And he went around the side of a hill, and there was apparently a spring had been underneath the ice there. And when the sled hit that, it just collapsed, see, and the binder he had on the logs broke, and the whole thing rolled down the side of the hill and pinned him in there, and he froze to death right there. That's where he died right there. The second year on the claim. So that was, I was only 4 years old then, and I very, very faint memories of my dad, Don't hardly remember him at all.
And so how did you get to Fargo then?
How did you get where?
To Fargo.
No.
Oh, you went after.
Oh yeah.
You
I
were
was
up there.
about 4 years old when this happened.
Well, how'd you
Yeah.
get to Chicago?
Let me stop and think. 22. I enlisted in the Navy. We done 2 years at that time. We do a 2-year hitch. We discharged in Great Lakes, Illinois. Never got out of Great Lakes. We discharged in Great Lakes, and I stayed in Chicago then. And I was bouncing from one job to another. But
Is that where you
Stewart.
got your tattoos? In the Navy?
yeah.
Tell him how
like-
you got in the Navy, it's kind of cute how you got in there.
What?
You didn't tell him the right age. Tell him
Oh,
that.
how
That's
you
good.
got in.
Well, I went out and bought a pair of long pants. Walked around the block 3 or 4 times to learn how to walk in them, and I walked in and enlisted.
How old
There
were
was no
you?
fuss. Huh?
How old were you?
I was only 17 then. Yeah. So anyway, I got in, and it was quite an experience. I never got out of Great Lakes. I was at boot camp. We went into Seaman Guard. See, at the main gate. So I always stood watch around all different parts of the camp, you know. So I stood watching. Never got out of Great Lakes.
But then your mom came and
And then Ma came down. My two brothers then. It was in Minneapolis, and my brother came down from North Dakota. He was my Aunt Mariah in Grandin, North Dakota. So he came down to Minneapolis, and when he heard I was in there, he came down and he enlisted. And my oldest brother was in Minneapolis with us at the time, and by the time we get out to Great Lakes, we'd only been out there about 4 or 5 weeks or so, when here come Hank, my oldest brother. So all three of us were in there. So then Mom moved down, Mother moved down to Waukegan. And in those days, we signed like an allotment, each so much. We got $25 a month out of each one of us. So she was in Waukegan, had a little apartment there, and she come down 2 or 3 times a week and see us at camp, you know. And we used to call her on the side, you know, there was some detail coming up, and we didn't want to get hooked on it, you know. We'd tell her to come on down for a visit, you know. So she'd come down, so we'd be called off extra duty going for the visit. Our mother was there, you know. You know, got out all kind of rotten jobs. But then Hank, he got sick while he was in there. He wasn't too healthy. I don't know how the hell he got in the first place. But you know, he got sick while he was in there, and so he got a medical discharge. He wasn't physically capable of going ahead with it, see. And Crum went down to South America. My other brother, he was finally shipped out of Great Lakes, and he went down to South America, and I was discharged to Great Lakes. But since that time, you know, during the World War, when the Sullivan brothers, you heard that story about the Sullivan brothers, you know. Well, there was 5 brothers in the Navy. They were all in the same boat. Okay?
Right.
And the boat went down. So they named this destroyer after the Sullivan brothers, 5 of them. Well, so since that time, see, they used to have, you couldn't separate brothers. If you went in with your brother, you stayed there. See, that was it. You went together. But now then they decided, like this Sullivan case, where all 5 boys of one family all went, you know. So they they break it up now. They break them up. So
Right.
if you got your brother, I suppose it's optional. If you insist on staying together, I suppose they do. But there is regulation now that they can separate you. See, yeah.
Now, after you got out of the service, what'd you do?
A fellow by the name of Joe West was steward over in the hospital at that time, and so I was talking to him, and so when I got discharged, I went over there and took a job at the hospital as a cook's helper. So I started cooking. Yeah, that didn't last too long.
yeah, I say it's
No.
not the meal home.
Cooking, making cornstarch pudding for 2,500 guys. That was a lot of work. I went from one thing to another. I don't know. I went back into Chicago. I went to work then. I thought I had a good job. Then I went to work for the New York Central Railroad as a fry cook, running from Chicago to New York. You know. Well, that was a blister. That lasted 2 trips. I quit. Then went steamboating. Used to be the Graham Morton line used to run out of Chicago over to Benton Harbor and St. Joe, and had these old side wheelers, old river boats. See, this one I was on was the City of Holland, they called it. So I worked on that one whole summer. That was a pretty good job there. And well, one thing to another, you name it, I've tried it in my lifetime.
That's right.
One way and another.
And then what'd you settle into there in Chicago?
I finally wound up in Duluth as a tugboat engineer.
Is that right?
Yeah, I got my license. I went to work in Chicago for the Sinclair refinery. There was 9 men from Bayfield. Marvin Warren, they all know him around town. And he went down, he knew this Captain Black was going to take this tug for the Sinclair refinery. It was down in Houston, Texas. It was an old fire tug. And they remodeled it and put knees on the front and brought her up to Chicago. And him, Marvin, and I think his brother Orville was on the same time, and Carl Dahl was on that crew. They went down to Houston and brought her up to Chicago. Now, when they got her up to Chicago, in the meantime, I wrote to this Captain Black to see if he used a guy. So I said, I know how to throw a line, I can make a splice. So he says, be in Chicago in September. So that was September of '52. And I went to Chicago, and then So she came in and
So you were already married then? You
oh yeah, we were married in 35.
Wow.
35, yeah. Oh, going back to 35, we was married about 3 or 4 years before we get enough cash together to take time off to come up for a vacation, you know. So we came up here and I went to the islands, you know. And God, I didn't think there's a place like this left in the world. Oh, I'm telling you, pure coming from Chicago, all that and coming up to this, you know. Oh, this is a radical change, you know. The woods, the birds, the clean air, the beautiful water, you know. Down in Michigan, it was all mud, you know, half the time. So I just think there's another place like that in the world.
So you want,
It's
so
funny.
after that first trip you
My
wanted
mother
to.
was, that's where we
I was
lived,
down
so
there.
he just, I could say, well, what does he think so great? I thought it was great, but he was so impressed, impressed with.
Well, you were born and raised in it. That's the first time I'd seen it.
Yeah. When did you
None.
leave Chicago for good?
45.
So Joanne, I mean, Ruth Ann was born down there.
No, Ruth Ann is an adopted daughter.
Oh, okay.
We
How
got her
do
when
we
she was 15 months old. She's been the joy of our life.
Oh yeah, but now did you adopt her down there or up here?
Up in Chicago.
Oh, okay. All right. I was.
We got a son, John. He's in Columbus, Georgia. He retired 25 years from the copters, Army, Navy, or Air Force copters. 25 years of it. That's about, he's been retired now about 6 years now. About 6 years.
So in '45, where'd you go? Here or Duluth?
Here.
When we
And then,
you mean, did we move back? We kept our, in the meantime, Ray had come up here. We had to go back to Chicago
Oh, yeah.
after we bought this house, and we rented it. And people wanted to buy it, and I said, no. I hung on to it. So there were times when we tried to make it here. He had the DX gas station, and he had different things. In Bayfield, tried to do something to make a living, but it was too poor. And so we
I'm a
left.
bartender for juniors.
Oh, you
And
were?
then he,
I run a laugh mill down here for a while.
but he tried.
What else did I
doing-
do up there?
And we had a lot. We were dry cleaning. We did a
Yeah,
dry,
dry
cleaning
cleaning
too.
plant, yeah.
See, we had several businesses, 4 or 5, 3, 4. But so then, when he got into on the tugs, that was when he had solid money, and he was transferred up to Duluth for how many years? So it
He
was
came up
handy.
to
But he
Duluth
went to
in
Chicago
69.
too, and he'd come home every 2 weeks. No, every
So
month.
you were
every
here,
2 weeks.
but he was working.
I'd
in
stay
Duluth.
here then, see, because Ruth Ann
And
was
that
going to
was
school.
45. No, that was 52
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Sort of.
so, yeah. So she stayed in school from the first grade.
Oh, okay.
See, so that was it. But I've loved it, and we've had more people wanting to buy our place. And I says, they'll quote a price. And I says, it isn't the money that I'm talking about. It's how I love the area and how I love the lake and the view and all. I says, so we could sell it. So then what would we have? We'd be going back up in the hills someplace, and I'm not a hill person. I was living on water all the time. So I just loved that. And I says, I've even said, Ray, we should sell this. I said, I can't do that. And I won't.
All ready for a fast buck.
Yeah. See, he's more Jewish than he is. He's more Jewish than he is
Mine
English.
sell. I
and
should
so-
have been on brokerage business. You know, years ago there used to be a couple on radio. They called them the Two Black Crows, Corell and Goslin. Maybe you remember them. They had a joke, you know. They started farming, and they'd buy young pigs in the spring, you know, for $5 a piece. And then they'd fatten them up all summer, you know, and in the fall, they'd sell them for $5 a piece. So Corral said, he says, you didn't make any money at that rate. And he said, no, we soon found that out. Yeah. Buy them for 5 and sell them for 5. That was me.
That's no kidding. He'd sell it back right.
Sometimes I'd make $1, sometimes I'd lose one. More I'd lose one. Those are the days, though. Good experience.
Yeah, okay, gonna go on hold again.
Take a break.
I never envied anybody else anything. I bought what we could afford, and that was it. The main thing. My dad says, the main thing is your heat, your food, and shelter. And that was what I've always thought. As long as we've got those 3 things, and good health, what else do you want? See, and good friends. Yeah.
Well, you've kept in good health.
I sure have. Yeah. little Wilmer says to me, he got a headache the other day, so he says, Grandma, have you ever had a headache? And I says, oh, I would say no, not for 40, 50 years. And he says, well, how come? No, why don't you, or something? I says, well, I just don't, which I don't. I never have any pains or headaches or nothing. But then it
Some
was...
of Wilmer's are self-induced.
Yeah, I think it is. I think so, yeah. So,
Maybe Kathy will
but
straighten
I've
him
always
out for a
been
while.
sensible about, I think, a way of living. We eat fairly much on time, and we eat regular kind of style of food. And so I don't ever have a pain or nothing, which I'm grateful for.
You wish that were true with you right now, right?
He's pretty good, yeah, but
Well,
I'm
I got
sure
enough for both of us.
he's pretty
I've been pretty lucky to figuring through the years, banging around one place and another, and accidents and things happen. Come on, pretty good shape.
How old are you now?
How old?
Yeah.
84. Yeah. When I was on the tugs, I had 3 fires and 2 explosions, 2 blow-ups while I was on the job. Come on, without a scratch.
Boy, somebody
Inhaled
was
a little
watching out
smoke
for
when I
you.
got out of there.
But you know what, like with Ruth Ann, I said, Ruth Ann, she runs like crazy. And I said, Ruth Ann, I says, have you ever thought that you're going to perhaps live as long as I am? Or to be as old as I am? I says, you've got to start slowing down. Yes, I says, I know I'll never make it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I think that advice belongs over here.
yeah. I says, she's just one thing after the other. Fight, clothes, just this. And I says, if you want to live to be as old as your mother, slow down, girl. Yeah.
Well, how many years did you work on the tugs, Ray?
I started tugs in 52. And then I worked until 72.
20 years.
Yeah.
And I quit in August of 72.
Was this all out of Duluth?
No, I put about 8 years in Chicago.
And then you came up
And then
here?
I finally got my car transferred up to Duluth. It was kind of a sewed-up affair in Duluth. It's kind of been at it ever since the old steam tug days, family business, Kids come right along, so I had to wait quite a while till there was an opening in there. Finally, they got an opening, and I transferred up here then. I come up here and I come up to Duluth in 67. 67, I landed in Duluth. Then I worked till 72.
And
I was on the 6 crew, steady job. Then I quit. Ah, Jesus. No reason at all.
no reason at all.
No. Cookie lived in Little Joe, and they just built this new house here. And they had moved in June. And so there was Little Joe sitting there, and it was an old house, and stuff. And I kept thinking, boy, now would be the time to go in and remodel that house inside,
You did too.
And finally that got eaten into me like a cancer, until finally I got it. I sat down, I wrote out a resignation and give it to Thibodeau, and I quit. Just like that, and I come home. And I worked in there for a year. That little house, tore the chimneys out, I remodeled the upstairs, put a bathroom in there, closets, and paneled the whole upstairs,
And
remodeled downstairs, cabinets. I worked there a whole year. Yeah. First 2 weeks I didn't know I used muscles I didn't even know I had it. I ate like a boil, But I finally stuck with it, and I finally got all that junk out of there, and went ahead and went to work. I worked in there a whole year. Teachers loved every minute of it. Never regret quitting the tugs. Never
You didn't?
regret. Nah. I was sick of the smell by that time.
And what was your job on the tugs?
I was an engineer.
Doing what?
Well, you run the engine room, the power. You take care of the power, the lower deck. Yeah. And they were all pilot house controlled. They were all automatic. All you had to do was light them off, and get it running. You probably let her warm up for about 10 minutes, and you go. Well, if the tug works for 8 hours, you can sit for 8 hours. They're all automatic, All the gauges and everything all had alarms and all that stuff. You just sit down, let her go. Go up on deck, get some fresh air. Stay out of the way.
How many guys were there on the tugs?
4.
That's all.
Yeah, the captain, engineer, and 2 deckhands. what do you call them, deckhand and an oiler, see? And the oiler was associated with me, and the deckhand was associated with the skipper, see? And if you wanted to write for your license, see, I was classified as an oiler all the time, and when I was on the Sinclair, I was on that for 2.5 years. And that was a twin engine job, see? All manual control, you had to run both engines by hand, you know, start and stop and maneuver. Well, I was classified as an oiler, so in '59, I wrote for my license. Well, I was classified as oiler, so I was eligible to write for an engineer's license in England. And I wrote in Duluth for the license, and I got it. And then I went back to work in Chicago that same spring on the old Cushing as an operator. I'd been oiling on her for 2 seasons before that. And so I went back as an engineer on her now. So I knew the whole boat, and we got along fine. Then I finally got up to Duluth. Yeah. Very good. Got a
So
good
you
deal.
would commute to Bayfield then?
Every weekend. Yeah.
So you were here by yourself all during
Yeah.
the week?
I was busy though. During that time, I had the dry cleaners for one thing, and then we were
Kept her busy and barefooted.
We were.
Take her home.
We did. I didn't have a garden. I'm not a farmer. But I picked berries and just enough for ourselves, and did what everyone else did. Made jam, sauce, and stuff. So. When you're, I love it. Yeah. I even haul it to Florida.
I believe that.
Yeah, jams. The jams. I haul it to Florida every winter.
You're mumbling.
No, I'm not. I just said I haul the jams to Chicago or to St. Pete, Florida,
Sure.
every fall. Yeah.
The top handled with care.
Yeah.
If you remember the time we get down, I hope they hadn't all melted out. They loosened up one year, but outside that, we didn't lose much.
No.
Had them all wrapped in newspaper and stuff.
Well, let's go back to 1945. Wasn't that when you said you came up here?
Yeah.
Bayfield? What did Bayfield look to you? What was it like then in those years?
To me, it's beautiful. You know, they had all the trolling boats around here at that time. Remember Jack Moon, he had about 3 boats himself, you know, see? And they had some, mostly all not big cruisers like they got now. They're mostly, remodeled fish tugs, you know. See, good sturdy boats though. And, Lord, they were, the whole bunch of, all summer long, they were busy, they were going. And every year, it's down, down. Now, what the hell is...
Also, then the big fishermen were.
And, boy, there's boats all over the lake here, you know, commercial fishermen. And during herring season, everybody in town
Was
worked.
it still operating then? In the place down by the ferry landing? Were they still there then?
At the booth docks.
Yeah. So that was still here in 45.
Yeah.
Now that was a nice arrangement they had for the fishermen. They could, I don't know how good it was just like they had, they'd give you what price they wanted to give you really, because then they depended on Booth when they needed their new nets that they'd finance the fishermen, a lot of them, and my dad included, and so they had their hand right on it. So then Herbie Johnson and a couple other guys, they started selling their fish out at Cornucopia, and they got quite a bit more. But my dad stayed with Booth because they always, if they were short, they could always get money. It was almost like a bank. But they'd let them have the netting in February about, and then they set a time, it should be paid June 15th. I can always remember that. It was $500, something. That seemed like a lot of money.
Boy, that's
Yeah, in those days. So, but
But you never took up commercial fishing, Ray.
No, I fished a couple of seasons, but I never got into it, you know.
You
I
did
worked
work
for
on
Jake, a brother-in-law, for a couple of seasons, you know. I put in a couple of herring seasons on the boat.
But you didn't take to it.
No.
Did Jake fish off Sand Island?
many years.
Yeah, there was
Was
Jake.
he fishing at the same time Carl was?
Yes. He was possibly had his own before Carl did. Jake, see, he liked the alcohol, and that's what he lost everything just because he was
When did
he could hold his drinks, but he spent too much money on his drinks. So
Was he fishing after the war?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
sure, yeah. 'Cause he
Off
was
the
using-
island?
Off the island around, yeah. And he was an excellent fisherman and an excellent. He
was
could
good,
just
yeah.
knew the weather. He understood
Yeah.
the currents
Did he give
and
up
all
before
that.
Carl did, or did he?
Oh no, yes, he
Or the
was
same
through.
time?
He was through. Carl was just a little bit behind him. Maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There used to be Jake Hanson and
Hermie
Elvis Moe, Bill Norrie, and Johnson's,
Herman Johnson's.
and who else was it?
Well,
There's 5.
well, it was Jake and Hermie and
Yeah.
Elvis
And
and the
Johnson.
Norrings.
And Norrie.
And I think,
Yeah.
and then Carl was in. He'd be the
Oh
fifth
yeah,
one.
Carl, yeah, 5 of them.
But Carl was in.
But every morning,
later.
7 o'clock, 5 boats all take off Sand Island, going out the island for a regular little flotilla, you know. Really action, you know. You know Elvis Moe, you know him. And he just kept everything going. He was a motorman out on the island. If there was any problem, holler for Elvis, you know. See?
He was an engineer.
He kept them all moving, yeah. So he was a great asset to the island, and a wonderful person too, besides. Yeah, old Elvis Moe.
Yeah, we were out and saw his old place
Yeah,
a couple days ago.
yeah. He had quite a dig there.
Oh, it had gone to pot,
Oh,
a lot of it by the
okay,
time
yeah.
Elvis got there, because his father run it, and he worked with his dad, I guess, and then he went out and he was an engineer someplace too. But a very quiet person, a very hard. It isn't easy for him to talk too much, but he's a lovely person,
Yeah.
a lovely gentleman, I think.
Well, now, when did you work for Junior?
Yeah.
That was just before I went tugging. That'd be in about 49, 50. And I saw Junior up at DX. And he was going sailing. And he says something about he wanted to get somebody to work. Keevan was going to take over the bar, you know. And so I said to Junior, I said, I wonder if he wants a helper. He says, yeah. He's looking for one. I said, well, you go down and talk to him. I'm down to Keevan. So I was bartending down there for Junior, for Keevan McCready. It was Junior's place, but it's Keevan McCready in there. And then the old log mark was the old hotel before it burned down, and I worked in there. That's where I had my beautiful experience with a guy by the name of Ward. He was a mixologist, something like poor old Marty Baldwin, you know. You name it, he'd mix them. Well, he showed me how to make a martini. And this guy was from out of town. I don't know who he was, probably a salesman or something. He's at the bar, so he wants a martini. So Ward showed me how to make a martini, you know. And with a lemon around the glass, you know, all that kind of stuff. So Ward sets it up, you know, and I make it, and Ward's telling me how, you know. I just take it all up, put it in the glass, you know, and then set up at the bar for me, you know. Ward says, now there's a real martini. Guy says, yes sir, we got gin, we got lemon, we got fingernails, the whole works. I thought, you know, boy, it was a long time before I mixed any martinis. Boys, oh, don't pay no attention to them. He says, yeah, we got the gin in there, we got the lemon, we got the fingernails, we got the whole works. Shoot, dirty.
Well, did you have to give the boot to any guys out there in juniors?
No.
When you said Junior was going sailing, he was going back out on the boats, you mean?
Yeah.
His parents weren't running the bar anymore, and it was his?
Huh?
His parents weren't running the bar anymore?
No.
Okay.
No, his dad was.
And Kevin and Keevan?
Keevan
ran it for
McCready.
him? Oh my God.
Yeah.
But that's
Then then he went out to, went to start his own place out here where
Yeah.
Wally is Nordina's, yeah.
He gods.
Boy. You know, it's too bad. He was a good kid at heart, you know. But you can be a good fella. But you know, you can't just start giving everything away, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're a good fella and all, but you know.
Did Junior talk anymore in those days?
No,
Never did talk much.
not much.
No.
We found all his baby clothes up in the attic one day.
No kidding.
Yeah. I've got them stashed. I'm going to give them to the Hysterical Society
Yeah.
one of these days. Cutest little blue suits and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
you've ever seen in your
Yeah.
life. And I thought, Mrs. Yaska has been something else again. She must have talked a lot, because Junior is the quietest person I've
Oh,
ever
yeah.
encountered.
And hardly ever touched the stuff himself.
Yeah.
Very shy.
Then he sold out, and then he went out and got a job at the hatchery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he had open heart surgery or something like that not too long ago.
Bypass.
Yeah. I see him downtown every once in a while. I run into him, you know. He's a good egg.
yeah.
Good kid to work with.
He had
He's
little
all-
or nothing to say, though.
Yeah. I've never known
Met him-
anybody
met
so
him-
quiet. And basically really shy,
Yeah.
which is unusual for somebody
But he had a
who
good
sat behind the
business,
bar.
I think maybe,
Yeah.
I think his mother took care of the bar too,
Yeah.
and I don't think he liked that. See, in those days, women were not barkeepers, and I don't think he liked that at all. And I think that made him button up too, because he didn't.
Yeah.
You know, some kids, you know, they feel that isn't any place for mine, they just, whatever. So I think that had a little bearing on him being shy.
So you didn't take to bartending either, right?
No.
There wasn't any money in it.
Yeah.
No. Well, that was the best paying job in Bayfield at that time. You know, it was $50 a week flat rate, you know.
Yeah.
See, you couldn't make $50 no price. So I took that. Well, while we was in there, you know how funny circumstances will change the whole story for you. Marvin, or Orville, Marvin Warren's brother, he was on the juice, you know. He was a pretty good one with that stuff. So he comes in one morning, you know, and he had a couple, you know, and then he had a letter that he had got from Marvin. See? Oh yeah, that brings back the story. He got this letter from Marvin, his brother, who was down in Chicago on this Sinclair. So he says he couldn't read it. See? So he said, "Hey Humpy," he said, "read this." So I read the letter to him. It's from Marvin telling him, Orville, to get his clothes together and get down to Chicago at a certain date. When Sinclair got there, he had a job. See? And I read this letter. I says, "Shucks," I said, maybe they got an extra job." So I took this guy's name, you know, and that's what I wrote down when I got the job. So Marvin, Orville didn't go down to Texas. Brought it back to mind. Orville didn't go down to Texas with the crew. He got on the job when he came back up to Chicago. See? So then I wrote and I got the answer back, and I went down and went to work with it. 9 of us from Bayfield here on one boat. See? Out of 12.
And just that coincidence, there you are bartending.
Just bartending there, I read the letter for him, and I got a job trucking, and that was a beautiful money job, you know. It was 7 days a week. We lived this 8, and we lived right on the tug, you know. So you got board and room and a good union salary in Chicago, you know. So that was a good job. That's when we started getting a few bucks you could do something with, you know. Yeah.
Well, what do you think of him going back to Chicago?
Well, I didn't mind because it was another case of survive or we'd have to leave. So, and he didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
So he did, that's a lot of
No
the
choice.
Bayfield people, most I would say of the Bayfield men had to get out of Bayfield to make a living. And I'd say, I bet 75% of them. The only good jobs were people that owned their own business there. And all the rest of them, it was just like chicken feed.
Well, back in 45, in that era, I bet there's 100 men out of Bayfield, all went sailing.
Yeah, they'd go sailing.
Over 100 men out of just one little town. Everybody and his brother was sailing, you know. All the jobs, everything was moving, you know.
Well,
And
it's-
by sailing, you mean out on the
On
Orville?
ore boats, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was
modern connotation.
And it's that's the same problem
Although
today. It's
it's-
rough to.
Same old problem. Bayfield is a place where you're not going to make a very good living unless you've got some money to invest in. I've seen people try to invest and do little things, and they make a few dollars, but it doesn't take care of a family. And then in the wintertime, you know, then things kind of cool off, and so most of the men had to get out of town. Too bad, wasn't it?
Well, there was the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was the money.
And they all loved Bayfield so much that they would rather go like that and call this home down here. They were Bayfield people, and you're not going to get them out of town.
Well, what is it that keeps people here in Bayfield? Well, we left off. What I wanted to ask you guys is, what is it that keeps people here in Bayfield?
The Lake Superior, the big
Atmosphere.
the big trees we have here,
People,
and the peace.
the original people.
And also, it's a place that, you know, just it's sort of a private place, kind of, you know. And that's what I think. I think it is just something. And of course, it's gorgeous. See, we've got those beautiful sunsets and the moon rising. It's just like a glorious picture. Like we can see right out here and see that the sun coming up in the morning and the moon coming up. It's just beautiful, and also very healthy. It's been very, very healthy place to be. We have fresh water
Lots.
and the delicious fish that we got here. There's just things like that I think it's worth more than money to say sit and you go jumping into an apartment or some little house in a city or back in the boondocks or something, you know. It's just something there. It's very relaxing.
So you wouldn't want to retire to a condominium in Minneapolis?
In
or
Minneapolis,
Chicago?
I don't know. We go down enough in the winter to St. Pete.
To Florida?
But we go,
Condominium.
no, it's not. We have a mobile. And that is just about as comfortable as we have it here. We have everything in there that we have in our house here.
So you don't like to go through the winters up here?
Ray is the one that just he doesn't like the cold weather now. Although I don't know how much I'd like
You
to.
don't go so hot for it yourself.
When I think of sliding around, wading through the snow, it's a little easier down there, see. So we really have the best part of both
She's
ways.
got the best of both.
You get out here, you gotta
And as long as we can manage
drift
it,
around the house.
which we do,
Wait
and
till
we've
next
met
day, get
some
somebody to chill
wonderful
around.
retired people down there. We're in a retired court. And you
Senior
get
citizens.
people from all over, and they're just older people that are so nice. Everyone is so nice.
Well, what do you think about, Ray, what do you think of Bayfield today? I mean, what Bayfield is becoming, because it's changing.
A little bit disappointed.
But after I mentioned here a while back about the coastline of Florida, after so many years, you can't even see the ocean. Well, after so many years, you won't be able to see the lake. You know,
Development.
yeah.
I think it's
And we haven't got the facilities to maintain this big, gigantic development. We haven't got the facilities for that. And the taxpayers have got it up to here now. See? And so they have to enlarge our sewage treatment system. And look what happened up to our dump now. We haven't even got a dump for a very limited time, you know. And we're just running out of these facilities, see? We're overdoing ourselves. Our sewer, some sections of the city, the sewers won't handle any development. You gotta tear up everything, rebuild all the sewers and stuff, more water lines running up the hill farther, and it's costing a whole lot of money that the old taxpayers, the people who held this town together for 100 years, don't get a nickel out of it. All they do is get it up to here. See now, if we got 5,000 people and tourists in town, they don't do me a damn bit of good down here. You know. Don't mean a thing to me.
But
I go downtown, I can't get within 2 blocks of the post office. You know, you want to go down to the hardware store, you got to park down at the park, down the lake, you know, to get into hardware. You know, that's what I mean. See, it don't mean a thing to us. It's just a lot of expense. If you
yet
hold
we've
it
got
where it is now, see, hold it right where it is as of today. See, and let's make improve on what we got. Instead of building a lot of new stuff, then we got to build everything up to catch up to that. See? Got a large, look at what they done down there on Minipetty in front of the hardware, or the lumber yard there. Had to tear up the whole damn street, cost thousands of dollars to put in all that sewer and everything, take care of the water coming down the hill. More streets, more runoff, you know. It all develops, and you got to watch the water problems in this town. You got to watch for water. Because boy, I'm telling you, about too many years ago,
Yeah.
what was it here? The flood that came down the hill here and across 13 and down this ravine, took everything right on out with it. All the way right down to the lake. And then it came down the bakery, took the bakery out,
Yeah.
down that ravine up there before they had that slough in there. Come down that alley and took the old bakery used to be in there, took that out, took that big stone building across the street from it, right next to Artie's there on that corner. The old Blue Ox Saloon. Everything, bones and everything else from the cemetery, all on.
But that had nothing to do with
I mean, but that's a water.
It
You
was
got to
something
see
that
what it costs us to
happened. That
control
was just
the
something,
water.
no one had any control about that. That was
No,
something-
I didn't say
no,
that.
But I'm saying, so we can't blame that on.
No, I didn't blame it.
It wasn't the tourist's fault.
That
No,
wasn't the
it's
tourist
the act of
fault.
God. We've got to watch for those things, see? Take a lesson from that now and protect against anything like that happening again. The sluice way done, that went out too, you know, after they got it in there. So all them stumps come down the ravine and everything else and plugged it up and then it bypassed.
Maybe you should take some pictures down in Florida when you're down there next and bring them back and put them up right here.
Yeah, I'll show you some of the floods down there.
Right in the
No.
cities too, they.
I know, I tell you, you get 2 feet of water down there and you're wading in it, yeah.
You know, if you want to go outside, I think you better hurry up, or else we might miss it altogether.
Yeah, let me just hear what, Connie, you were gonna say something about that. Just about Bayfield now, I mean, how you feel?
Well, I feel also we're overloaded for the little town. I think we should, it's up to capacity, seems to me. And I feel that way now in the summer. We're so loaded downtown, there isn't room for people to come. The tourists, I can tell, they're just loving running up and down. It's not, seems like Duluth or something. You'll get that mass of people running up and down. And really, I don't see what they're here for, other than why we're here. We're here for the atmosphere and the lake and stuff. Because I don't see where there's something so fascinating that what they do when they come in here. We haven't really got any entertainment other than the scenery.
But I think that's why they're here.
And that's why I think they're here. It's something different that they can see. But
Well, I guess what you need is a balance.
I think so. I think they're just. And I know you've got to have improvement, but no, I mean increasing what we've got. That's what I think. I think every little spot someone wants to do something in it, so that I don't think we're going to have. There won't be a spot that there won't be a building or a little store or a little something, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then when everything is done, these promoters, they move out of town.
Yeah.
That's when they bid us goodbye. They're gone. And nice knowing you. And that's the end of that story. And then a lot of that stuff flops too, because really in Bayfield we are just a summer resort thing, and it was a fishing town that would just fit in with what it was. And so now they're trying to figure it.
Yeah.
And they're trying to encourage people to come in the winter now too, activities, and there are people that come. But I think they've just overloaded themselves.
There's not too much
It's
the old
all for
fishing
money.
about-
In the old days, and I think the people of town, even the young workers, they aren't smelling the daisies. They're just going along. And I know my son-in-law Red. He just absolutely. All he's doing is working. Sure, he's making money, but he's wasting time too. The time he could be maybe enjoying something. It's sort of as they've got ideals of everyone wants to be rich. That's what the thing is. Everyone, and they're not going to be satisfied. They want to be rich, so they'll work 12, 15 hours a day. Now that's stupid. They're not going to last.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. I think now my son-in-law. I feel badly, and I said, Red, my dad worked, but they didn't work running. Yeah. In those days, people worked. They worked hard, but they didn't run to work. And they had times. They had 2 days off a week, and they had evenings free. And my dad would quit at 5 o'clock. And I don't know. It seems I think they're just losing the whole program.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry. And I feel sorry for my daughter. And they're the two I know that I'm seeing them doing it every day.
Well, let's hope they don't destroy a good thing here.
Well, I don't know what else they could do,
Yeah.
really. They wanted to put houses all along the bank here.
Yeah.
Were you around here then when they
No.
were coming? That was Mr. Stevenson?
That's the old right away, really.
Yeah.
Right in front of
And
you.
he wanted
Yeah,
and the houses were going to come up as far as the bank. And the only lifesaver was that we owned this spot and we owned up to Little Joe, and my sister had the other spot. And so it stopped them.
Yeah.
But they were ready to go and put them high buildings, and I said to him, he came up and he says, well, what do you think? And I says, well, I think it's terrible. And I says, He says, well, it'll be beautiful. We're going to grade it. We'll put rocks on it. And he says, I said, how high are those buildings? They were going to stand on posts too, see. And I says, how tall are those buildings going to be? And they said, well, you won't see. We'll just come up to the, I says, how about the chimneys? Are they going to be, can we be looking at the chimneys from the bank? And he couldn't say no on that one. And I says, and the smoke and from the fireplaces and things coming up. And I said, so as far as I'm concerned, no, I don't think, and I don't think it's a good place because I've lived here for so many years, and that's like a hellhole in the summertime. It's so hot down there. The sun gets in on that railroad ground, and it's just, the heat is just terrible. I think you'd be gypping people, having them think that would be a good place to build.
Well, why don't we go out and look at that view? We'll get outside.
Yeah.
Ray, thanks a lot.
You're more than welcome. my
Taking the time. I know you've been in.
Sisters. It used to belong to Brostowich, and Gert bought it from him. And Gert was out here, God, I can't even know how many years when Ruth Ann was just a kid going to school. So we've had it many, many years. And then we bought this place first, then we bought the second place.
So this house is your house?
Yeah, that's it. And then our lots were where Ruth Ann and Red are, and then the other little house is ours, going on the same side of the street. Then the greenhouse, my sister's is. So really, it's nutty, isn't it? Really?
This is your family's road here.
Well, we were fast enough to get it. Although years ago, when I come up here wanting to buy it, people said, you're crazy buying that place. It's too expensive. Well, all I had to do was look at the water, and I liked the water. I said, no, we'll take it.
Is that why you got it for this?
Yeah, the view of the water.
View over here?
The house was all right, just a nice house, nice. We did a lot in it,
Yeah.
but it was the water.
Well, let's stroll along here and
Yeah.
see what.
Yeah.
Now, what's out here?
Well, this is Ed Erickson's. Ed Erickson is got the point there. I think we're possibly. That's a boat for the government right there, and Ed owns. He owns a lot of. He'll own.
So that's where he keeps the outer island.
Yeah, that's where he keeps that when it comes in, right on the end of the pier there.
Right.
You know, and
there?
I could have bought that piece of land. I wanted to. I said I had my three of us, my two brother-in-laws, and it was $3,000 to go way on that out to the edge here. And I said to my sisters, why don't we buy it for fun? I says, boys can fish and we can get a little boat or something like that, and just for fun. Oh my! And I says just $1,000 apiece, and they thought that was too much. So then I went back to Chicago because I was working back there at the time, but we had our house here. So I thought in January I said to Ray, or the last year, he said, I'm going to buy that house myself, and if any of you want to come on, you're going to have to pay. So I wrote a letter and wanted to get it, and by golly, that's when the other people had just picked it up. Wasn't that dumb? For
Now we got a
island
downpour.
people? Yeah, right.
Fortunately, we're under this big
That's
tree.
what I mean. See, that's like a little umbrella. So, but for
And that's
$3,000.
Madeline across the way.
Yes,
there.
that's Madeline over there.
Well, what a view.
Yes, I love it. I love it. You never tire of it because the coloring changes, and it's just sometimes it's stormy, sometimes it's still, and it's so interesting. I think in fact, you never tire of it. I don't anyone that's around here.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, what else do you see from here?
This, my brother we call this he made this little roadway around there. But then we've had some rain. I filled red. You gotta have it filled in because it's sort of sloping.
So that's Madeline over there.
That's Madeline, the whole thing over there. And then Long Island comes over on the other side.
And where does the ferry land over there?
See those, you can see a dock over there.
Mm-hmm.
There's you can see that white house and a couple of things. Just as I'm right now, straight ahead you can see that brown thing, or it's maybe red, that oil
That's the
stain.
pier there.
Yeah, that's the pier. And then over a little further is that chateau, and I don't care for Madeline.
You don't?
No, not in comparison to this. No, I don't think I've been
Well,
around
this is
the
home.
island. Yeah, but it's this is I think I don't know what it is. There's lots of bugs and mosquitoes over there, and hot in the summer, very hot in summer. I don't know why it is, but it is. And so Now, Sand Island was much more attractive to me. I think Sand Island had a higher bank, and we had a rock cliffs out there, lovely cliffs that you could go in, a part of it. And my father owned that for years and years. You could take a skiff around and just go under between those cliffs. And I think that was more, to me, nicer than Madeline. Well, I think some of the other islands on the other side, even York Island or even Raspberry has all these rocks and stuff. It's kind of interesting.
I suppose you spend a few hours up here at the picnic table, huh?
A lot of time. We have our morning coffee there, and afternoon coffee.
You keep your eye on the...
She had a picnic table here, and then she was a great one. Come on, we've got the coffee howling, and we tell the kids to come in from around. We'd have just sit and chat for an hour, maybe or so, something like that, you know. And it was social and fun. We had a lot of fun. And everyone would bring out their goodies. So we had to, so that made it the fun, you know. I don't just necessarily like coffee all by itself. It's got to have something with it. Yeah. So anyhow.
And you spend some time on your porch, I suppose, that's it too.
Not as much as you'd think. We seem to come outside here.
You want to be down by
Yeah, we like to be on the ground, it seems like. I planted that blue spruce and those there crabs. I'm good at planting trees. In fact, all of it, I've cut down trees and I plant them again.
Where, back in here?
Yeah, the whole I planted them.
Now, is that your little house back there too?
It was a cottage at one time, and really years ago when you first had it, I used to have tourists because it has, it was divided in half, and it has water, sewer, electricity in there. But now Ray uses it for his shed. He calls his workshop, and then it's got a big basement. Second story where it's a mess. I've got to go through it this summer. It's a good place to hide something, you know, when you need it. And I save everything because we might need it. Whether that stems from me, but I never needed nothing in my life, but I just still save things. So
Look at that lightning out there.
Yeah.
See the sailboats go by.
Yeah, it is. And when they have their races, we would take that in. But it used to be so that there wasn't a tree down there, and when we used to have the fireworks and things, you could see it from the whole bay. But now, of course, it's full of trees. But trees are beautiful too. I think we need it. So,
You can still see quite a lot.
oh yeah, but before you can see the whole thing. See those gray houses that are there, little apartments? Now, to me, they are unattractive. And plus being
Those
gray.
are those condominiums down by right?
That's right.
right?
And yes, and not very attractive. I think they're darling inside. I mean, they're kind of, they got a good show place there, and they seem to have nice glasses for their drinks and stuff like that. But I think the buildings themselves they don't look like Bayfield. It's just, they're too plain. That's what I think. They're too plain. There's no class to it. It looks like sheds to me. That's what it looks like. So we're not too impressed with that.
Oh, I like the old boats that were there before better.
Yes, yeah. All of them were a little bit different, you know. They were individually made by people, and there was a little different flair and with those fish boats. And it was.
Where did your dad's boat end up?
In Bayfield. Someone took it, I think, to Corny. He had, I was just thinking one night how many boats my father had 3 fish boats, and they lasted a long time. But they did have, in those days, he had good material, because the boats themselves wouldn't rot, it seemed like, you know, they just went on forever.
What were their names, those boats?
My father's was the Lady Grace, and I can't just remember what the other people, they had just odds and ends of names. I don't know why my father called it the Lady Grace, but when we got a roof on the fish boat, then we thought it was really good. It's funny, you know, because an open boat, fishing was easier with an open boat, but then because then they had to have these big openings, but they had things to close it up after they're through. But we like that. We used to go to Sand Bay a lot, and when we were younger, when they had the dances down at Sand Bay. And it was very, very, very nice. It was all kind of a family thing, except Tribovich, he was at 14 years old, and he was making beer and selling it. Wouldn't you know? But he was, and so my dad wouldn't let us. He wouldn't allow us to go out of the dance hall. Us girls, when we went, he wouldn't let us. And but it was illegal at the time. But people will buy it regardless. So, well, my father one time made a batch of booze too. I helped him. I was real proud because there I was with the teaspoon putting a match to it, and as long as the blue flame, it was still going good. And I know that we were doing. I was doing it upstairs.
He talked to you about selling out?
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
And he'd be sorry himself, and I said no. So.
Now, who put up the flagpole here?
My dad, Red.
Ray.
No, Ray.
Yeah.
That's the second one he's put up.
Yeah.
He's a pain this year. This year doesn't do anything like it should be.
And when did you get into the house here?
About, well, when this thing was 6 years old, and she's 45. She's 45 when we got in here when she was about 6 years old. That's what the age was, so if you can subtract a little bit, if you're a good mathematician.
Which was
6 from 40. She's, no, sir, Ruth Ann's going to be, Ruth Ann is 47, and she was 6. So that's been a long time.
229.
What street is Street. This is 5th.
This is the end of 5th Street.
Yeah, end of 5th Street. Goes
Yeah.
right around the bend.
Yeah.
And but now it's interesting. See, you never tire because you go down there and the boats are interesting, even to watch. Even
There
though
comes
they're
the ferry,
tied up.
huh? Is
Yeah,
that
the ferry. Which,
With the flag out
yes,
there?
that's it. Yeah. That wheels by many times a day. They start early, 6 o'clock in the morning.
I hear those ferry horns going.
Yeah. And years ago, when I was a kid on the island, we used to have loads of great big boats that were hauling in whatever they had, coal or whatever it was, and they would come through and go around by Sand Island, and those big horns would go, and I used to think it sounded so great. You know, we seemed to like whatever it was. We just thought it was just great. And then they had one boat sunk outside of Sand Island. But
You didn't see all these sailboats in the old days down here, did you?
no.
Now there's...
There wasn't.
What used to be where the yacht club is now?
That was a fishing dock. Those were fishing docks, sort of like boats were tied up against the dock, and they boarded it up and made a regular wall along that, but it was fish boats tied up there, and they weren't tied up that way, it'd be long ways, so there wouldn't be that many. They have stalls now, sort of,
Right.
and but that was interesting too. And then we used to have the herring fishing out on the island. We used to kind of, we would say something we enjoyed, whatever it was. See, my dad was that way, and my mother, and there was nothing that was negative. It seems like whatever it was, they hacked it, or I don't know, whatever. So there was never any problems of, discontent. There was no discontent at all, and which was very nice. But I think it was the way my dad, his father, he was spoiled, but with him, this is the way we were raised. Time to go to bed, kids. 8 o'clock. That meant snap of the finger right now. And he didn't say it in an ugly voice, but that's time to go to bed. Same with sitting at the tables, our meals. We had our noon meal at 12 and 6 o'clock, and it wasn't 5 after or 5 to. It was just, we'd sit down and it was almost like a ritual, but yet it wasn't a ritual because I thought that's what everyone else did, see? So it was all right. And then when you got up from the table, you went and did the work. the dishes. It seemed so. It was such a harmonious way of living because everyone knew where they were at. Now when I'm around, I hear the parents screaming and hollering at kids, go and take your bath or do something, and everything was just what he said in a nice, calm voice.
Yeah.
And with my daughter, and that's all I said was talked once too. And she was upstairs at one time, and she, what? And I says, when I call you, it's for a reason. I said, I want you come right down. And then she knew that, well, when I called her, I'd say, Ruth, come on down. And she'd come down. And there was no fight about it then. It seems like you just have that was the way I was raised, and I think I went along with it. But I never had to hit her, never had to do anything either. And we all had fun. But with kids, we knew where we were at. See?
Well, things have changed, haven't they? In that
Like
respect.
100%. Just about make it 100%. When I see what goes on with kids now, I could just scream. I think it's so idiotic. Kids telling their parents, and like they've got all the little kids now, they're dressed like they're going on the movies. And really, and I think it's fine if they can afford it, but I think, gee, I don't know how they don't do it. All they've got to have them all like little actresses and actors. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Oh, I think it's so weird.
With the particular brand of clothes, too.
Oh yes, and their little colored pink shoes and their white. And we were glad if we had one pair, and we were really happy. We had one dress pair, and it was so different, but there wasn't confusion. Now there's such confusion. Whatever
Well, the world
it
is pretty complicated, and
Well, who's made it complicated? The people.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's the people themselves.
Yeah.
Because you don't have
That
to be
includes
complicated.
us, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. Uh-huh. Well, I'm not complicated. As I say, I won't even buy the clothes that's coming out now. I really won't. I won't buy those crazy looking on women. Those pants, I think they're terrible. I don't know if the men like them. You can't tell what kind of a body is underneath. I've got a sister up there, and she'll buy them, and she shouldn't be buying them. But I will not buy one, nothing like that. It's a fad. Now the men are more. They're more practical. They wouldn't go for all that stuff. Oh, I think it's crazy.
So you're content with who you are and where you are?
Definitely, definitely. But I also will say, I believe in religion.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that very thoroughly. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
And just there's a whole list there of things to do. I try to follow that. And I think you're happier if you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very, very happy. In fact, I'm really I'm not unhappy anytime, really. But I think people don't follow. I don't think people follow. They read it, but they don't apply it. And the thing is this, if you apply it yourself, you'll be happy. Because that's the only right way to be doing it.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel.
Well, thank you so much for
And
talking
thank
with
you,
us.
fellas, and you, young lady. And I feel so. What do they reward you for doing that on there? How can you
High
do
pay.
it? High pay.